April 24th. From yesterday's reading, we saw that David was obsessed with God's desires, with God's agenda, and God's purposes. And we saw how unique this was, how it set David apart from his peers. God loved this about David. And so when this attitude is demonstrated again, when David again shows a deep, heartfelt, and proactive concern for God's purposes, it moves God's heart in a profound way. And so today's reading is one of the most amazing and insightful in all of Scripture, and one of the most wonderful passages you'll read all year. In fact, it's one of the most amazing passages of literature you'll ever read. In 2 Samuel 7, David has just secured his kingdom, built his palace, and has been given rest on every border from his enemies. He's been blessed beyond his wildest imagination. And then he summons Nathan the prophet, and he says, "Nathan, I live in this great palace, but God's dwelling is in the tent outside, and that's just not right. God should be highly honored. I want to build a house for God." And God replied with an unexpected response that is truly mind-blowing. God's response in verse 11 to David's request is, "I'm so touched by your offer that, you know what I'm going to do? Rather than you building me a house, I'm going to build you a house." God literally said that. He said that he would build David a house. And not just a house, but a dynasty. He explained that he would make David as famous as anyone that has ever lived, and that David's throne, the rule over God's people, will remain within David's family, within his house, forever. So David asked if he could do something for God, and God responded with an exponential blessing that no one saw coming. It would be analogous to offering to buy someone a cup of coffee, and they responded by saying, "Well, thanks, but I own the coffee company, and I'm so touched by your thinking of my needs that I'm going to give you the ownership of it. Congratulations, you now own Starbucks." Okay, I know the analogy is not quite accurate in all points. Starbucks is publicly traded and it's not privately owned, but you get the idea. What's amazing is that this kind of generosity shown to David is not an isolated incident. This magnificent benevolence is the very character of God. His offer of reconciliation through Jesus is wonderful, and it's beyond what we deserve, but it's way more than that. It's an invitation into something exponentially beyond what we can understand and expect. 1 Corinthians 2:9 says that things which an eye didn't see and an ear didn't hear, which didn't enter into the heart of man, these God has prepared for those who love him. David's obsession with God's desires was unique, but God's amazing treatment of David wasn't unique. God lavishes this magnificent grace and love to all of us. Here's today's application. I hope this reading encourages you to dig deep into the Word and press in to know your Creator in deeper and deeper ways. God is waiting with deep treasures of wisdom and restoration, inspiration, motivation, creativity, and hope for all who seek Him. 2 Chronicles 16:9 says that His eyes roam to and fro throughout the earth, that He may strongly support those whose heart is completely His. So seek Him today. Become obsessed with Him and His purposes. Now here's today's prayer.